You can tell a lot about people by how they treat the wait staff. And on the day of what was supposed to be my wedding, I learned more than I ever wanted to know. The venue was a rented estate in the countryside, rose archways, white linen tents, a fountain out front gurgling away like it had no idea what was coming. My tux fit me tighter than it used to, not because I'd grown bigger, but because the weight I carried wasn't stitched into fabric. It was stitched into time, and regret, and names I used to say with reverence but now only muttered like curses. I was standing just off to the side, behind the flower stand, watching everyone parade around like peacocks on borrowed pride. They thought I was the help. I didn't correct them. Not yet. The photographer was doing the rounds, snapping pictures of the groom's side, my side, with half the enthusiasm. That was fair. My side was basically a folding chair and an empty bench. I didn't invite my brothers. Didn't even tell them. I couldn't. Not after everything. Mira, my wife-to-be, was already mingling, smiling like a pageant queen, her laughter cutting through the air like champagne glass shards. She wore that ivory dress like it was a spotlight, and maybe to her, that's all this day was. A show. A broadcast. A victory lap with me as the prop. Our daughter, Lacey, stood right beside her. 19. Tall. Beautiful. Sharp-eyed like her mother, mean-mouthed like her too. She wore a smugness that didn't come from anything earned, just inherited. Like her disdain for me. I raised that girl. I changed her diapers with calloused hands after 12-hour janitorial shifts. I made her grilled cheese in the middle of the night when she had nightmares. I taught her to ride a bike, then kissed her skin knees. I made sure her private school tuition was paid on time, even when it meant skipping my own meals. And yet, when the MC handed her the mic to say a few words about me before the vows, she took a breath and smirked. I just want to say, she said, pausing for full dramatic effect, he's not really a father. More like, just a cleaner. Laughter. Actual laughter. A ripple of mockery that traveled through the guests like a virus. Someone even clapped. But the cherry on top? Mira, my fiancée. The woman who used to kiss my forehead after long days and tell me I smelled like hard work, she applauded. She actually clapped. One of those slow, exaggerated claps. Like it was a performance she helped direct. And that was the moment I realized they never thought I was going to say anything back. They thought I'd do what I always did, clean up the mess, lower my head, and smile through the humiliation. But today I had something else in my back pocket. Literally. I reached into my jacket, slow and deliberate. The laughter quieted, confused now. Lacey's smirk faltered. Mira tilted her head. From inside, I pulled out a white envelope, simple, sealed, thick with truth. I tapped the mic. And I spoke. You know, I said, voice steady as a steel beam, I've scrubbed toilets for 20 years. Cleaned offices full of men who thought my name was hey. Paid bills for a house where my name was barely mentioned. But I never complained. Never asked for more. Because I believed that love earned in silence was still love. Dead silence now. Like someone had cut the power to the whole reception. I held up the envelope. But love, I said, shouldn't feel like debt collection. In this, I waved the envelope. This is the receipt. Then I opened it. Inside were 3 things. A signed check for the full cost of the wedding. Paid by me. Every damn cent. A printed email thread between Mira and a man named Brandon West. Subject line? After the wedding, we'll be free. A copy of the deed to the house. With one signature missing. Mine. I looked Mira in the eye. You thought I didn't know? I asked, my voice still calm. You thought I'd pay for the wedding, sign the house over, marry you, and never noticed the way you smiled at Brandon like you forgot I was even in the room? Gasps. Actual gasps. A few people stood up. Others reached for their phones like this was a Netflix drama breaking live. Lacey's face drained of all its arrogance. For once, she looked like a kid again. Confused. Exposed. Mira opened her mouth. I raised my hand. Don't, I said. You already spoke. And with that, I walked away from the altar, the tent, the lies, leaving behind only the echo of what should have been. Funny thing about crowds, they cheer easy. They laugh easier. But when the joke's turned on them, they scatter like roaches when the light flips on. The silence that followed me as I stepped down from the platform was almost holy. People parted like the Red Sea, unsure whether to stop me or avoid being associated with the blast radius. I didn't run. I walked. Slow. Calm. Controlled. Like a man who had already buried the body of his old life and was just walking away from the grave. Behind me, I heard Myra's voice crack. This is some kind of prank. He's making this up. Sure, sweetheart. And those emails from Brandon were just fan fiction? One of the groomsmen, Brandon's cousin, I think, read the email thread over my shoulder when I'd held it up. I saw his face blanch. He didn't say a word, just backed away from Mira like she was radioactive. I had backup copies, of course. A whole folder, neatly printed and waiting in the limo. Some of them worse than the one I shared publicly. Screenshots. Messages. One photo that left no doubt. Just enough to scorch the earth, not enough to humiliate her the way she humiliated me. Because unlike her, I still had dignity. I stepped out into the driveway, the afternoon sun warm against my face. The valet, a skinny kid in a vest too big for him, blinked. Mr. Cole? Are you done? I handed him a tip and smiled. Kid, I've just gotten started. The limo door swung open. My best friend Jared was inside, just like we planned. He didn't laugh. Didn't say, told you so. Just handed me a cold soda and nodded. You all right? No, I said. But I will be. He started the car, and as the tires crunched over the gravel, I looked out the tinted window one last time. Mira was standing there, clutching the mic like a weapon she didn't know how to use anymore. Lacey beside her, arms folded, trying to figure out who to blame now that the script had flipped. I felt something between grief and liberation watching them. Something like, peace. We didn't go far. Just to a nearby lodge Jared had booked under my name. One night. Quiet. No questions. Just a room with a fireplace and a bottle of the good stuff. You want to talk about it? He asked, setting the bottle down. No, I said. I want to show you something. I opened my laptop. Password protected. Encrypted. But not for anything illegal. I'm not stupid. Just private. Folder 1. June. Mira plus Brandon. Folder 2. Lacey's admission essay proofread draft. Original. Mine. Folder 3. Prenup I never signed. I clicked open a folder titled Contingency. Inside were screenshots of every message I'd ever found. Venmo payments from Mira to a consulting service that didn't exist. Real estate listings under her sister's name. Turns out, Mira was moving to another state with Brandon after the wedding. She never planned to stay. Damn, Jared muttered. This wasn't a fling. This was an exfiltration plan. Yep. And the girl. Lacey. I sighed. Parroted her mother's contempt for years. I used to think she'd grow out of it. Now I realize she just grew into it. Jared shook his head. You really were gonna marry that woman? No. I was gonna bury her, legally. She just didn't know it yet. The next morning, I made my move. Not revenge. Strategy. I called Mira. She didn't answer. Of course not. She was probably neck-deep in damage control with her mother and a wedding planner about to lose her 5-star reviews. So I sent her a text. Don't worry. The email thread wasn't the worst of it. I only showed 10%. You should see what's in the manila envelope I mailed to Brandon's wife. Boom. 10 minutes later, she called. I didn't pick up. Mira finally called again that night. This time, I answered. Not because I wanted to hear her voice, God no, but because silence only gives them room to manipulate the narrative. I needed her to hear mine. Cole, her voice cracked, rehearsed but brittle. What was in the envelope? What did you send to Brandon's wife? I took a deep breath, let her sit in the tension. I didn't send anything yet, I said. But I did mail 3 envelopes. One to her. One to his business partner. And one to your employer. You wouldn't, she hissed, the mask slipping instantly. There she is, I said. There's the real Mira. You're trying to destroy me. No. You tried to destroy me, Mira. I'm just leveling the playing field. She went quiet. I could picture her, pacing in her silk robe, glass of wine shaking in her hand, trying to figure out which lie was going to save her. She didn't know the game had already changed. I wasn't playing defense anymore. 2 days later, Brandon's wife, Sophie, emailed me. Subject, thank you. She didn't waste time. Attached were court documents, separation in progress. She thanked me for not humiliating her in public, like her husband had done privately for years. She offered to forward me details about a business loan Brandon had used under false pretenses, a loan Mira had co-signed as a silent investor. Boom. Leverage. I dug into it. Mira had dipped into my accounts to cover part of Brandon's startup. How? Easy. I'd let her manage the household finances, like a fool who still believed we were a team. I'd been working double shifts for 2 years thinking we were paying off the mortgage early. Turns out, she was paying for his company to look successful on paper. The twist? Brandon's company wasn't failing. It was fraudulent. 2 phantom employees. Faked income reports to get seed funding. Mira had sent the paperwork herself, and she left her email signature on it like a fingerprint. So I did what any betrayed husband with a spine and a spreadsheet would do. I called my lawyer. Terry Raines wasn't cheap, but the man handled corporate divorces like a shark in a feeding frenzy. When I laid out the trail, financial records, texts, emails, even the deed she tried to forge, he looked at me over his half-moon glasses and smiled like a man who'd just found buried treasure. "Son," he said, "you want scorched earth? Or just the high ground?" "Just the high ground," I replied. "I don't want her hurt. I want her exposed. I want her to know she lost to someone she thought was beneath her." Terry nodded. "That, I can do." Within 48 hours, we froze the joint accounts, canceled the credit cards, alerted the mortgage lender to possible fraud, filed a motion to halt any property transfers. And the kicker? We had Mira served. At the wedding venue. The same planner she humiliated me in front of handed her the envelope this time. Poetic. She called me again. Screamed. Threatened. Begged. Offered peace. "Just let it go," she said. "We can still fix this." "No," I said. "You broke it." I just swept up the pieces. Lacey reached out, too. A text, late at night. I didn't mean what I said at the wedding. I was nervous. I didn't reply. Not yet. She'd have her moment. But not before she learned that mocking a man doesn't make you powerful. It makes you pitiful. They say karma takes time. That's a lie. Sometimes karma is a man with a receipt folder and a lawyer on speed dial. 3 days after she was served, Myra's Instagram disappeared. So did her mommy and me blog. Gone. Vanished. And when I checked her company's Yelp page, it was flooded with 1-star reviews. I didn't do that. But I'm not surprised. Turns out, people don't like cheaters who pose as family values influencers. Especially not ones with public weddings that turn into viral humiliation. Yep. Someone in the crowd posted a video. The moment Lacey called me, just a cleaner. The crowd laughing. Mira clapping. And me, pulling out the envelope. It hit 2 million views in 48 hours. The caption? When the janitor drops the truth bomb at his own wedding. I didn't even need to write the script. Life did it for me. Myra's employer, a private school she fundraised for, put her on leave pending internal review. Apparently, parents weren't thrilled about their kids being influenced by someone who applauded mocking a father who put food on the table. Her carefully curated social circle? Gone. The brunches. The charity events. The women who used to fight for her attention ghosted like cowards sensing a sinking ship. She tried to go on the offensive. Threatened to sue me for defamation. My lawyer responded by filing a countersuit, fraud, misuse of funds, and damages for emotional distress backed by digital forensics and signed affidavits. She backed down so fast, I half expected smoke to come off her heels. Then came the big one, Brandon. Turns out Sophie didn't just file for divorce. She took screenshots of every transaction tied to the phantom company he and Mira built together. And when she forwarded them to the investors Brandon conned, game over. One of them, a firm in Chicago, pressed charges. Brandon was arrested mid-meeting. You should have seen the news coverage. Actually, maybe you did. Local entrepreneur faces fraud charges after viral wedding scandal. His mugshot looked like someone had shoved the realization of his own stupidity down his throat. Mira wasn't charged yet, but she was named, and that was enough. Now, about Lacey. She showed up at my apartment, uninvited, middle of the day. I almost didn't answer the door, but curiosity won. She stood there, eyes puffy, a little makeup smeared, holding a bakery box. "Cupcakes," she mumbled. "Your favorite." That old trick. We sat in the kitchen. She didn't touch hers. I didn't either. She tried to talk. I didn't mean what I said. "You did," I said. I was trying to be funny. It was supposed to be a roast. A joke. I leaned back in my chair. "You stood in front of 100 people and reduced the man who raised you to a janitor's uniform. For laughs. That's not a joke. That's character assassination with punchlines." Her lip trembled. "You've always been distant with me." "No," I said. "I've always been respectful. But you confused love with indulgence. I gave you everything I had, and you spit on it for an audience." She didn't cry. She didn't run. She just sat there. Then finally, she asked, "What do I have to do to fix it?" I didn't answer right away. Because truth is, I don't know yet. 3 weeks after the wedding she came knocking. Not with fury. Not with pride. But with bags under her eyes and a half-frozen smile that looked like it had been borrowed from someone stronger. I was in the garage, wiping down my old Ford pickup. The one she used to call embarrassing. Funny, things paid off and still run smoother than her designer SUV ever did. I heard the knock. Didn't flinch. Opened the door. There she was. Mira. No makeup. No filters. No curated presence. Just her, looking 10 years older and 10 shades paler than the woman who stood clapping at my humiliation a few weeks ago. "Cole," she said, her voice soft like wine through a broken window. "Can I come in?" I didn't move. "I just need 5 minutes," she added. "Please." I studied her for a second. Then I stepped aside. Not because I wanted to, but because closure doesn't come by slamming doors. It comes by opening them wide enough for the ghosts to walk through and choke on their own dust. She sat at the kitchen table. Same place she used to mock my chipped coffee mugs and my refusal to buy a Keurig. No? She looked like she'd kill for a cheap cup of normalcy. "I didn't come to fight," she started. "Then don't," I said, sitting across from her. "Talk." She swallowed. Everything fell apart. Brandon's gone. His accounts are frozen. I'm under investigation for the school's charity fund. I didn't even know he used it as collateral. I raised an eyebrow. "No." I asked. "You didn't know? Or you didn't want to know?" She looked down. I thought I was upgrading," she said quietly. There it was. No metaphor. No excuse. Just the truth, dropped like a rock into the still water between us. "I looked at you and saw a man who fixed sinks, cleaned boots, worked late, didn't dress the part. Brandon made me feel like I was ascending. And now?" I asked. "Now I see I descended," she whispered. I didn't gloat. Didn't smile. Didn't offer comfort. Because I wasn't here to validate her pain. I was here to witness it. She reached into her purse, old, frayed, no longer the Louis Vuitton she used to flash like a badge, and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was a letter. I wrote this," she said, sliding it toward me. "It's not for pity. It's not to fix anything. I just needed to say it. I didn't touch it. Not yet." Then she said something I didn't expect. "I ruined the best thing that ever happened to me. Not because you weren't enough, but because I convinced myself I deserved more. I was wrong. I know you'll never take me back. I know I lost you. But I needed you to know. I see it now." She stood, quiet, shaky, turned toward the door, paused. "I wish I could go back," she said. "I really do." "Yeah," I replied. "But going back's not an option. Only going through." She nodded once, left, and I didn't follow. Later that night, I opened the letter. Not because I thought it would change anything, but because sometimes you need to read the ashes before you scatter them. It was a full apology. No manipulation. No bargaining. But still, too late. After Mira left, I sat there for a long time. Not because I was broken. Not anymore. That part of me died the moment I watched my own daughter call me just a cleaner, while her mother clapped like she was at a comedy show. No, I sat there because I was remembering something my father once told me, back when I was just a boy scrubbing grease off his old work boots. The thing about dirt, son, it only scares people who never built anything with their hands. I'd lived my whole life thinking that being the clean-up man meant being beneath them. Turns out, I was just the only one strong enough to deal with the mess. The phone rang the next day. I almost let it go to voicemail. But I didn't. "Cole Garrison," the voice asked, smooth but clipped. "This is Dana Heller. I'm calling on behalf of Redwood Property Development." I frowned. "Okay. We came across your designs from the Pinewood renovation project. The city files list you as the lead contractor and planner." "Yeah, that was a pro bono side gig for the Veterans Housing Outreach." "I know. And we loved it." Silence. Dana continued, "Our team's working on a historical renewal initiative. We're looking for someone with your experience, hands-on, grounded, efficient. We want you." I blinked. "You're offering me a job?" "No," she said. "I'm offering you a lead. Partner track. Relocation assistance if you're open to moving south." I laughed. I couldn't help it. "This real? Or some kind of scam where I wire you money and lose a kidney?" Dana chuckled. "This is real, Mr. Garrison. We've read your blueprints. We know what you're worth. The question is, do you?" I looked around my garage. Same place Mira used to call a shrine to low ambition. I saw tools hung with care, plans rolled with purpose, blueprints I'd drawn late into the night while she was out networking. And I realized, this wasn't a graveyard. This was a launch pad. I took the offer. Within 2 weeks, I was on the road. Packed what mattered. Sold what didn't. Left the house Mira once ruled with sighs and passive jabs. The place didn't even feel haunted, just hollow, and ready to be someone else's mistake. A month into the new job, something strange started happening. People respected me, not for what I had, not for who I was married to, not for appearances. They respected me because I showed up, because I'd show the new hires how to set foundation braces, then walk straight into a boardroom with the engineers and hold my own, because I listened, didn't brag, and still delivered more than I promised. And somewhere in the middle of that, she walked in. Her name was Camille. She managed community outreach for the project, petite, sharp-eyed, with a voice like late-night jazz and a walk that didn't ask for attention but earned it anyway. She handed me a clipboard on day 3, nodded at my calloused hands, and said, "You're not like the other guys they've hired before." "No?" I asked. She smiled. "No. You actually build things." We didn't flirt. Not yet. We respected each other first. She learned that I brewed coffee strong enough to peel paint. I learned she rescued dogs and drove a rusty Jeep named Hazel. She asked once, "What's your story?" I told her some of it. Not all. Just enough to say, I was married once. Loved wrong. Learned better. She nodded. Me too. It was a Sunday. Bright, quiet, the kind of afternoon where time moves slower and the world feels honest again. Camille was curled up on the porch swing, legs folded under her, reading some dog-eared mystery novel while Hazel, the Jeep, sat lopsided in the driveway like it knew it'd never be fixed and didn't care. Me? I was doing what I do best, working with my hands. Sanding the edge of a reclaimed oak plank I'd pulled from a tear-down job last week. It was going to be a bench. Solid. Practical. Built to last. Then I saw it. A silver car creeping up the road, tires crunching slow on the gravel like guilt was driving. I didn't recognize it until the window rolled down. Lacey. My daughter. Or, the girl who used to be. She stepped out like she wasn't sure if she was welcome. She wasn't. But I didn't say it. She wore a hoodie this time. Hair pulled back. No heels, no smirk. Just her. Stripped of the performance. Camille glanced up, gave me a look that asked, "Want me to go?" I shook my head. "No," I said. "Let her see what peace looks like." Lacey walked up the driveway, slow. Like the distance between us was heavier than it looked. "I saw the news," she said finally. "Which part?" I asked. "The embezzlement? The failed wedding? The fraud? Or the mugshot of your mom's boyfriend?" She winced. "Good. I saw your post," she said. "The bench you're building. You always said things should be made to last." I kept sanding. The rhythm of it soothed something ancient in me. She shifted her weight. "I miss you." I stopped. "Miss me?" I said. "You called me a cleaner, Lacey. At my own wedding. You laughed while they tore me down. And then you watched me walk away without lifting a finger." Tears welled up. I was stupid. "No," I corrected. "You were cruel. There's a difference." She nodded, swallowing whatever apology she thought would land. It didn't matter anymore. I stood, wiped sawdust off my hands, and looked her in the eye. "I'm not angry anymore," I said. "I'm not holding a grudge. But I'm also not holding space." "What does that mean?" she asked, voice shaking. "It means I'll always be the man who raised you," I said. "But I'm done trying to convince you I was ever your father." She sobbed then. Not loud. Not performative. Just real. Camille stood from the swing. Walked over. Not close, but present. Like a lighthouse, there if you're smart enough to swim toward it. "Maybe someday," Lacey whispered, "we can try again?" I gave her what I hadn't given her in years. The truth. "Maybe," I said. "But not before you build something first. Something that lasts." She nodded, turned, walked back to her car. Didn't look back. I went inside. Camille followed. Later, as we sat at the kitchen table, she reached across and took my hand. "Are you okay?" I looked at her. This woman who never saw me as a cleaner or a punchline. Who saw me as real. "Yeah," I said. "For the first time in a long damn time. I actually am." The letter came on a Thursday. Plain white envelope. No return address. Just my name. Block letters. The kind Mira used when she didn't want emotion to get in the way. It sat on the kitchen counter for 3 days. Unopened. Unbothered. I'd glance at it between coffee sips, but it didn't call to me. It just sat there like a spider that forgot it had fangs. On Sunday morning, Camille picked it up and looked at me. "Want me to toss it?" she asked. "No," I said. "I'll do it." But I didn't. I opened it. Not because I needed closure, but because sometimes you don't pour gasoline to set a fire, you do it to make sure nothing ever grows back. Inside, 3 pages, handwritten. Myra's tight cursive slanting like the lies she used to live by. Cole, I know I have no right to ask anything of you. Not after what I did. Not after how I let them mock you. Let her mock you. I think about that moment every day. You standing there, calm, envelope in hand. Me clapping like an idiot. I didn't see the man who raised our daughter. I saw the man I had convinced myself wasn't enough. And I was wrong. Brandon's in prison. The charges stuck. He flipped on 2 of his investors to shave off his sentence. I was never charged. But I'm ruined just the same. I can't get work. No one returns my calls. My parents won't speak to me. And Lacey, well, she says she's trying, but I know she's ashamed. I deserve it. But I want you to know something. I never stopped loving you. I just didn't love myself. I thought I needed more. But I only needed to see what I had. You. If this letter makes it to your hands, I just want you to know. I'm sorry. Truly. Not for what I lost, but for not realizing what I had until you were already walking away. Mira. I folded the letter once, then again. No tears. No sigh. No dramatic stares out the window. Just a quiet exhale. Camille was in the backyard, feeding Hazel dog treats and humming something soft and forgettable. I stepped out and handed her the folded paper. Read it if you want, I said. Then toss it. Or burn it. I don't care. She looked at me, searching my face. You sure? Completely. I turned back toward the garage. I had a project to finish, an old bench for the local veteran center. Solid oak. Meant to last. That night, Camille walked in, empty-handed. No fire. I asked. She smiled. Didn't need one. She held up her phone and showed me a photo. The letter, soaked, crumpled, floating down the river behind our property. Water's better than fire sometimes, she said. Fire's too theatrical. Water just carries it away. And just like that, it was gone. No ceremony. No ashes. Just a mistake drifting out to somewhere I'd never have to follow. I closed on the land 2 weeks after the letter hit the water. 3 acres on the edge of town. Oak trees lining the western ridge. No neighbors close enough to eavesdrop, but not so far I couldn't borrow sugar if I had to. It wasn't much when I bought it. Just a plot with busted fencing and a weathered sign half swallowed by weeds. But I didn't see overgrowth. I saw potential. I didn't hire a crew. Didn't call in favors. Didn't take out a loan. I picked up a shovel and did what Mira never thought I could. I built it. Footings. Beams. Nails. Sweat. Every corner square. Every line straight. A cabin-style home with a wide porch, deep overhangs, and rafters thick enough to survive a decade of storms. Camille helped where she could. Brought lemonade. Painted trim. Hazel mostly just supervised from the shade, wagging her tail like she knew this was sacred work. This wasn't a dream home. It was a truth home. No frills. No glass chandeliers. No gold faucets. Just integrity, nailed into every board, sealed into every joint. The workshop came next. Out back. 30 feet from the house. Double doors. Skylight. I built it to house me, not my tools. Don't get me wrong. I still had the saws and sanders and clamps. But this time, I carved out space for something more than work. An armchair. A bookshelf. A record player. Not a man cave. A man cathedral. Where silence wasn't lonely. It was earned. Where I could hear the truth without distraction. Where no one clapped when I got hurt. One night, Camille walked in holding 2 mugs of cocoa, hair loose, smile easy. You gonna hang that? She asked, nodding to the photo I'd framed but never placed. It was an old one. Me and Lacey, when she was maybe 5. She was on my shoulders, covered in dirt, laughing like her life was pure sun. Before the war. Before the applause. I don't know, I said honestly. Camille took it, gently, and set it on the shelf. You don't have to hang it to honor it, she said. Sometimes the past just wants a quiet seat in the back. God, that woman had a gift for words. Not flowery. Not clever. Just true. By fall, the leaves turned amber and the house was done. No ribbon cutting. No grand reveal. Just the sound of my boots on clean wood floors and a fire crackling like an old friend saying, you made it. And I had. Not with revenge. Not with rage. But with reclamation. It showed up in the mailbox the way most turning points do, quiet, unannounced, and on a day when the sky looked too clean for anything to go wrong. Return address. None. But the handwriting? It was Lacey's. Not Myra's penmanship, too tight, too guarded. Lacey's was Messier. Slanted. Like someone racing a thought before it vanished. I sat down on the porch. Same old mug of coffee, same old swing. Camille was inside humming something to the radio. I opened it. Dada, I know I forfeited the right to call you that. And I know I said things I can't unsay. But there's something you should know. Mom lied to both of us. About a lot of things. But mostly about you. When I was little, I remember asking her why you worked so much. Why you missed dance recitals, birthday parties. She told me you didn't care. That you were ashamed of us. That you were always looking for an excuse to stay away. I believed her. And every time you did show up, even if you were exhausted or covered in paint or drywall dust, she made sure I noticed what you weren't. Look how he's dressed. That's the best he could do? I didn't understand what it meant to sacrifice. I only knew how to perform disappointment because that's what I saw her do. I was groomed into contempt. And by the time I realized it, I didn't know how to reverse it without losing everything I had wrapped my identity around. Being cruel became easier than being honest. But I'm trying now. I got a job. Nothing glamorous, front desk at a hardware store. Go figure. And I'm taking classes at the community college. Sociology. Ethics. It's strange learning about accountability after using none of it for years. I'm not asking for a seat at your table. I'm just asking if, one day, I can stand in the doorway. No applause. No judgment. Just a chance to be seen. I love you. Even if I didn't know how to show it. Lacey. I sat there a long time. Didn't move. Didn't cry. Just let the words hang in the air like smoke from a fire long since put out, but still capable of catching something dry. Camille came out eventually. She didn't ask. She just looked at me and said, "You okay?" I nodded. Then, without drama, I folded the letter and slipped it inside my coat pocket. Maybe, I said, it's time I build a second chair for the porch. Camille didn't push. Didn't prod. She just gave me a quiet nod, the kind that says that's enough for today. That night, I pulled out my notebook, the one I kept tucked beneath the workbench, full of designs I hadn't shared with anyone. I added a sketch. A simple wooden chair. Nothing fancy. Just sturdy. Real. Something for the daughter I used to carry on my shoulders. Maybe someday she'd sit in it. Maybe not. But it'd be there. The thing they don't tell you about rebuilding is this. It doesn't end when the house is finished. It ends when someone else picks up the hammer beside you. That happened on a Tuesday. I was at the lumberyard, pricing cedar planks for a pergola job when a kid, couldn't have been more than 20, walked up. Skinny. Nervous. Ink stains on his hands. Hoodie 2 sizes too big. You Cole Garrison? He asked. I nodded. Depends who's asking. He grinned. My name's Reese. You helped my Uncle Dave put siding on his cabin. Said you work quiet and don't talk unless it matters. That sounded about right. He fidgeted. I'm looking for work. I don't have much experience. Just need someone to show me how to build something that isn't broken before I even touch it. That hit me. Deep. I told him to show up the next morning, 6:30 sharp. If he was late, I wouldn't open the door. He was early and hungry, not for food, but for purpose. He listened like someone who hadn't had many people tell him he was capable of more than just staying out of trouble. Over the next few weeks, we built together. Benches, pergolas, a deck for the local fire station, a ramp for a Vietnam vet named Glenn who hadn't left his house without help in 2 years. Reese never complained, never bragged, just worked. And every time he made a clean cut or set a beam right the first try, I saw something I hadn't expected to see again. Hope. Not just in him. In me. Meanwhile, Camille was carving out her own little empire of kindness. Started a small rescue group for senior dogs. Took Hazel on weekly visits to the assisted living center. Even helped organize a supply drive for the high school woodshop that had its budget slashed. One night, sitting on the porch, she looked out at the yard, clean lines, fresh gravel path, wind chimes singing soft in the dusk, and said, "You ever think maybe you were always meant to be here?" I looked out across everything I had built, not from spite, not from bitterness, but from resolve. No, I said. I think I had to lose everything fake to get to what's real. The next weekend, I got a call from the community center director. She asked if I'd be interested in teaching a basics class. Home repair, tool safety, beginner carpentry. Nothing formal. Just an honest man with a story and a skill set. I told her yes. Not because I wanted the attention, but because there are kids out there, and grown men who think they're only worth the label the world gave them. Cleaner. Janitor. The help. The joke. And maybe if they see someone like me standing in front of that class, someone who's been called all those things and still came out clean on the other side, they'll believe it's possible to start again. It came from a number I didn't recognize. Local. Middle of the day. I almost ignored it. But instinct's funny like that. It whispers before it shouts. I answered. Hello. There was a pause. Then a voice I hadn't heard in years. Aurora. Myra's mother. Still prim, still poised, still trying to sound like she wasn't speaking through gritted teeth. Cole, she said, like my name was sour on her tongue. I didn't say anything. Just let the silence remind her I didn't owe her grace. I wasn't sure if I should call, she continued, but Myra's not well. Still nothing from me. She pressed on. She's been staying with us. Ever since Brandon went to prison and the school fired her, she's been adrift. She doesn't eat much, doesn't speak, just stares out the window like she's waiting for something to come back that never will. I let that hang for a second. Then, why are you telling me? She hesitated. Because you were her husband. No, I said. I was her stepping stool, her wallet, her scapegoat. Aurora didn't respond. So I continued. She clapped while our daughter humiliated me. Let that moment rot every future I could have imagined with her. Then tried to play victim when the truth came crashing through. I buried that woman 3 versions of myself ago. She's broken, Aurora whispered. No, I corrected. She was always broken. I just stopped taping the cracks back together. I expected her to snap then, the way she used to. Passive insults wrapped in pearls and wine breath. But she didn't. She sighed. She said you'd say that. She was right. Another pause. Do you want to see her? She asked. Just once. For closure. I chuckled. It wasn't a happy sound. Lady, I said, you don't show up to a man's funeral and ask him if he wants to visit the grave that killed him. Then I hung up. I stood there for a minute. Phone still warm in my hand. Felt something like peace and something else too. Pity. Not for Mira. Not anymore. But for Aurora. For that whole damn family tree, roots tangled in ego, branches starved for humility, leaves fallen long before autumn. That night, I told Camille what happened. She didn't say much. Just rested her head on my chest and listened. Then whispered, you didn't need closure. You were the closure. A week later, Reese handed me a card after we finished staining a deck. It said, you taught me how to hold a nail gun. But more than that, you taught me that a man can rebuild himself and then help others do the same. I didn't cry, but I stood a little taller that day. It wasn't flashy. Just a simple wooden bench, oak and cedar, sealed to last, placed under a red maple on the edge of the new park behind the community center. A brass plaque was fixed to the backrest. For the ones who build quietly and carry more than they're ever thanked for. Donated by Cole Garrison and students. I didn't ask for a ceremony. But Camille? She knew better. She called it a dedication afternoon. No balloons. No press. Just sandwiches, sun tea, a few folding chairs, and the people who showed up, not out of obligation, but out of respect. Reese was there, standing beside the bench like it was holy ground. His hands rougher now, calluses formed. He didn't talk much, just nodded, eyes shining like someone who understood what it all meant without needing to say it. Camille stood with her rescue crew, Hazel at her side, tail wagging like a slow metronome. And then I saw her. Lacey. She wasn't dressed up. No designer coat. No overcompensation. Just jeans. Hoodie. Hair tied back. Nervous as hell. She stood on the edge of the small group, unsure if she was welcome, but not entitled enough to assume. That mattered. I walked over. She looked up, startled. Hey, I said. No heat. No frost. She looked at the bench. Read the plaque. That's beautiful, she said. I nodded. Built it with Reese. Took us 2 weeks. 3 if you count the finished work. Can I sit on it? I shrugged. It's a bench, Lace. Not a throne. It's made for sitting. She smiled. It cracked something open. We walked over. Sat down. And for a long time, said nothing. The sun filtered through the maple leaves. Wind rustled softly. The scent of sawdust still lingered in the wood grain. Then she spoke. I took that ethics class I told you about. I nodded. Good. Professor asked us what we regret most. What did you say? She took a breath. I said, not realizing I already had a father worth admiring. I just didn't see him because he wasn't loud. That one hit. Right in the rib cage. But I stayed quiet. Let her earn the space she was taking. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out a small envelope. No seal. Just folded over. I wrote this weeks ago, she said. Didn't send it. Didn't know if I had the right. But it's yours. I took it. Didn't open it. Not yet. Then she stood. I'll go. I just wanted to be here. She started to walk away. I called out, Lacey. She turned, eyes already glinting. You can come back, I said. Not all at once. But if you want to help build the next bench, I'll show you how. She nodded, bit her lip. Thanks, Dad. And that's when I knew. Forgiveness isn't a gift you give someone else. It's the weight you finally set down so you can breathe. The call came from the mayor's office. That still feels strange to say out loud. Cole Garrison, the assistant asked. We'd like to formally invite you to join the Civic Advisory Committee for Community Development. I laughed. Out loud. Couldn't help it. You sure you've got the right guy? Yes, sir. You were nominated by 5 different community leaders, including Camille Heller. Of course she did. She says your designs are changing the way people move through this town. I swallowed something unexpected. Gratitude. Humility. A little disbelief. All I ever did was build a bench, I muttered. That's all Rosa Parks did, too, she said, not missing a beat. I showed up to the first meeting in jeans and a clean work shirt. No tie. No pretense. The room had polished floors, long tables, glass water pitchers. Some looked at me like I was lost. Until I started talking. About zoning reform. About affordable housing that didn't feel like punishment. About benches that faced playgrounds instead of traffic. About pride, not in appearance, but in function. And when I finished, there wasn't applause. There was something better. Respect. Not the kind you ask for. The kind that walks in behind you, earned, and waits quietly in the back like a loyal friend. Camille was waiting for me when I got home. Porch light on. Coffee reheated. Hazel sprawled across both doormats like a woolly bouncer. She smiled when I walked in. How'd it go? I just nodded. Well enough, I said, then pulled her in and kissed her like the answer needed no words. That night, she curled up next to me and said something I hadn't expected. I got an offer, she whispered, to run a regional outreach program. Bigger scope, bigger messes, but more impact. I blinked. Where? She hesitated. 3 hours south. I didn't speak right away. Not because I was shocked, but because I knew what was coming next. I want to say yes, she said, but only if you'd come with me. I won't ask you to leave this. What you've built. These people. Reese. Lacey. This new rhythm. I looked at her. Saw the flicker of fear behind those strong, amber eyes. You're not asking me to leave anything, I said quietly. You're offering me another place to build. She smiled. Relief painted in soft light. You mean that? Yeah, I said. But if we go, I want one thing. Anything. We do it my way. Which is, we drive down in Hazel. In silence. With a map made of paper, not pixels. And when we find the next place with broken things, we fix them. She kissed me like that was a proposal. Maybe it was. We'd been in the new town a month. Different skyline. Same stars. Same hands, same tools, same instinct to make the broken things whole again. Reese stayed back, running the shop. Lacey visited on weekends, hauling paint and trying to pretend she wasn't still nervous every time I handed her a power drill. Camille was thriving. Her outreach program hit the ground running, pop-up clinics, dog rescue events, food drives. She walked through the chaos like she was born in it. Me? I was doing what I do best, listening more than I spoke, helping people who didn't know how to ask, and building things that didn't need an explanation. Then the letter came, postmarked from back home. I didn't recognize the handwriting, but the signature stopped me. Sophie Ross. Brandon's wife. Well, ex-wife. The woman who vanished quietly while Mira self-destructed in high definition. I opened it out on the new porch, coffee in hand. Boots kicked up. Wind rustling a tarp I'd meant to tie down for a week. Cole. I waited a long time to write this. Not because I didn't have words, but because I needed to be sure I wasn't writing from revenge. You and I, we didn't choose this war. But we survived it. I saw the video. The wedding. The mic drop. People shared it like it was a meme. But I watched it like a eulogy. Because I saw you. The man I remembered from birthday parties and back porch beers. The one who used to fix our fence without asking. The one Brandon used to envy but never admit it. He always wanted what you had. But he didn't want to earn it. I think Mira was the same. They deserved each other. You and I, we deserved better. I've started over, too. Small town. Small bakery. People who know me for who I am, not who I married. I just wanted you to know that your silence after the scandal, that meant more than 1,000 insults. You never dragged me into it. You never used me as a pawn. You just walked away and built something better. I admire that. So this isn't a thank you. It's a mirror. So you can see yourself the way the rest of us do. Steady, quiet, unshakable. If you're ever in town, the lemon bars are on me. Be well. Sophie. I folded the letter once, then again. Didn't cry. Just smiled. Small. Private. Like a man who just got a nod from someone who'd also crawled through fire and made it to the other side. Camille walked out a few minutes later. Barefoot. Mug in hand. Good news, she asked. Better than that, I said. What's better than good? Proof, I said. That we're not just healed, we're witnessed. She didn't press. Just sat beside me, leaned her head on my shoulder, and whispered, then let's build the next chapter like it's permanent. It started as a conversation over cold coffee and scrap paper. Camille had been approached by the city council. They wanted to start a vocational mentorship program for at-risk teens. Trades. Tools. Real work. Real dignity. They had funding. They had space. What they didn't have. A name. A face. A builder. She looked at me. I shook my head. I'm not a public speaker. Or a program guy. I just fix what's broken. Camille smiled. Exactly. That's how it began. We called it the Foundation. Simple name. On purpose. Not flashy. Not lofty. Just solid. Just true. The kind of thing a 17-year-old with a rap sheet could walk into and not feel like they were being saved, just seen. We converted an old warehouse. Put up walls. Ran electricity. Got tools donated. Camille got grants approved like she was born for this. And I taught. Not from a lectern. From the shop floor. Nails. Joists. Saw blades. Patience. The kind of lessons that hit deeper than textbooks ever could. Measure twice. Cut once. Clean your workspace. Respect your craft. You're not the mistakes you walked in with. You're the work you're doing now. And they listened. Because I wasn't some guy with a padded resume and soft hands. I had the scars. The calluses. The receipts. Then one day, it happened. End of year celebration. Cheap banners. Good food. Whole town invited. I was working the grill out back when Camille waved me over. You might want to hear this, she said. I stepped inside the warehouse-turned hall just as Reese walked to the mic. Clean shirt. Steady voice. Shoulders back. He looked out over the crowd, then locked eyes with me. And this kid who didn't know the first thing about a level 6 months ago said, before this place, I thought the only thing I was good at was getting in trouble. But Mr. Garrison, he didn't treat me like a project. He treated me like a partner. He didn't tell me I could be better. He showed me how. So when I build my first house, I'm not putting a cornerstone. I'm putting a bench. One that faces the sun. One that says, I was seen. I mattered. I built something that lasted. The whole room stood. They didn't clap because it was expected. They clapped because they understood. And me? I didn't bow. Didn't wave. Didn't take the mic. I just nodded. Because the man they once mocked had become something louder than applause. A foundation others could build on. It was a rainy Thursday. The kind that made the woodshop smell like wet cedar and the sidewalks shine like mirrors. I was finishing a coat rack with one of the newer kids, a girl named Marnie, sharp tongue, sharper instincts, when I saw someone standing just outside the double doors. Didn't move. Didn't knock. Just stood. I told Marnie to grab lunch. Wiped my hands. Walked over slow. He looked up. And just like that, 20 years vanished. Myra's father. Gregory. The man who used to call me blue-collar with beige ambition. The man who sat at my wedding like someone had court-ordered his attendance. The man who watched the destruction of his own family and never said a word to stop it. He hadn't aged gracefully. Hair thinned. Eyes dim. A suit that probably used to fit better. But the arrogance? Still clung to him like an expensive cologne long gone stale. Cole, he said, as if we were just old friends who hadn't had coffee in a while. Gregory, I replied, no warmth. He looked around the shop. This place? You built all this? I did. Impressive. No. Useful. He chuckled, awkward. I saw the article. About your program. About the speech that kid gave. You've made something of yourself. That's when I knew why he was here. He didn't come for small talk. He came to rewrite history. He stepped closer. Too close. I came to say, I was wrong. About you. About what you could be. I didn't smile. Didn't offer a hand. You weren't wrong, I said. You just weren't listening. He blinked. Excuse me. You saw me as someone beneath your daughter. A guy who worked with his hands. Fixed his own truck. Packed his own lunch. You thought that made me less. Gregory tried to interrupt, but I raised a hand. No, I said. You don't get to rewrite the script now that the lights are back on. He closed his mouth. You're not here to apologize, I continued. You're here because you need me to validate your guilt. You want me to tell you it's okay now, that Myra's not entirely to blame, that the damage can be shared. I stepped closer. But here's the truth, Gregory. Some people weren't just bystanders. They were accomplices by silence. You knew. And you let her rot from the inside out because she looked good in pictures. He looked away. Ashamed, or just tired, I didn't care. He tried one more time. She still talks about you. I don't talk about her. He nodded once. No argument left. Then, before he turned to go, he asked quietly, if she ever needed help. She doesn't need help, I said. She needs reflection. And a mirror that doesn't lie. He walked off. Didn't look back. I stood there a minute longer. Watched the rain beat on the shop windows. Then I walked back inside. Marnie looked up from her sandwich. You good? I nodded. Better than ever.